Once you've ruled out the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be true.
And it is not a question of a little occultism or a touch of mysticism, Mr. Denton. It is vampires, and there's a host of damned souls at Pelham House.
I am thy father's spirit, doomed for a certain term to walk the night.
Here, the old gods aren't dead.
And what of the true god?
He's dead. Can't complain.
People assume that time is a strict progression of cause to effect, but actually, from a non-linear, non-subjective viewpoint, it's more like a big ball of wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff.
You're listening to Paranormal UK Radio.
Hi everybody, this is Irene Allen from the Paranormal UK Radio Show, the flagship show to the Paranormal UK Radio Network. And I'm not going to forget his name, even though he thinks I am. Mark Johnson.
Oh, I'm very impressed.
Oh, yes. Well,
you always
3 weeks, Mark. Mark, 3 weeks.
3 weeks. 3 weeks from tomorrow, I'll be getting on a plane, and I'll be coming over to the British Isles.
Yep.
Blend in with other...
And 3 weeks, one day from tomorrow, I will be dunking him in the Bristol Channel.
I'll irritate you enough by then, all right?
Okay.
Everybody over here in the U.S. will be going like, well, wonder when Mark's coming back.
Mark is not coming back.
Yeah. Well, not necessarily a bad thing, but I could handle staying over there for a while.
No, I'm not talking like that. I'm not saying I kidnap you or anything.
No, you wouldn't do that.
These Isles are very, very, very spooky, paranormal place to be, and you never know what's going to happen to you, Mark.
Well, you are taking me to some spooky paranormal places to check out, so, you know.
Yeah, and I may leave you there.
Well, leave me there as long as I got battery power and some equipment.
Listen, darling, as soon as you walk into my house, you won't have any battery power.
Oh, then I'll just have to use some of my other senses then.
All right, then. Yeah, you can find them.
I want to see that black shadow that's been lurking about a bit.
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
Yeah.
See how loud you scream.
As long as there's no cats involved.
No cats in this house. I tell you, no cats here.
Just Gertie, the paranormal pup.
That's it. And if anybody should hear demonic sound coming from behind us, don't worry about it. Gertie is on the couch. She's an English bulldog and she snores, and there's nothing I can do about it. If I put her into another room, then I'll have to have the parrot in here, and that'd be squawking. So the snoring's a bit better than the squawking.
Well, I finally get to meet Gertie. So, well, hey, after 12 years, I finally get to meet you too. So, hey, there's that.
Oh, good God, yeah.
Well,
okay. Let's get on with the show.
Let's get on with the show. We're going to have a good time. Anyway, excited to speak to tonight's guest. We're talking with Victoria Bell. Now, Victoria has a very interesting background. She is a filmmaker, so a writer, producer, director, actor, and she has a new movie coming out in August called Heir of the Witch, which has some semi-autobiographical elements to it. So, Victoria, welcome to the program.
Hi, thank you for having me here. I'm really excited to speak with you both and to share a little bit about the story and the movie, Heir of the Witch. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you. We're always fascinated about witches, especially, her over there in the UK,
I'm not a witch.
No, I said you're fascinated by it.
No. Well, there's a lot of witchcraft in this country that goes back hundreds of years. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Victoria, you've got an accent. Where were you born?
I was born in Republic of Moldova. I lived there up
Oh,
until 18, and then I moved to Romania. I went there for college. And then I came
yeah.
to the United States after I graduated college, and I've been living in the States for the last 18 years, so it's been my home now.
Oh, I see. And you're quite happy there. You like the United States, yeah?
I do. I
Moldova.
love it.
God almighty, I'd love to go to Moldova.
Yes, it's neighboring to Ukraine. It's a tiny little slither of country there that is just tiny, and that we have great wine and beautiful women. That's all I can remember from home now.
Well, now Irene, I might just have to rebook my trip. I'll see you another time. I'll go to Moldova.
No, I'm coming with you. I've heard the men are pretty good over there as well.
Okay. Well, as long as there's the wine works. So Victoria, let's talk a little bit. Heir of the Witch. Now we've seen the trailer, and when we post the podcast, I'll include the link to the trailer in our posting so people can see that. But it's based on some aspects of your own family life, and so I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, of course. It's actually inspired based on my paternal grandmother. She was a witch, and not a kind one, but she was a ferocious one that was using her actual powers to instill pain and fear in our family. I have so many stories that was told to me by my siblings and my own mother, how she would come to our house and she would drop dead animals, or she would tie them with red ties and put them under the carpet or put them into our items to bring in our family torment and arguments. And she was successful at that because my parents actually broke up when I was a 1-year-old. And she was very happy to affirm to everyone that she was the one behind the whole thing unfolding. And I grew up with nightmares, with the nightmares that she created and instilled in my heart. And I decided to write from that place of fear and that place of honesty and shame.
Wow.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Victoria, did you say she terrorized your family, but did she do it outsiders as well, outside the family? Was she wicked to them?
From what I'm understanding, she was actually presenting herself as a witch that she gave services as a palm reader or as trying to bring some type of happiness or joy in your family. But instead, she would use her powers to actually bring discomfort in your family, because that's what the darkness was asking her to do, in exchange for those dark powers not to haunt her or torment her. And then I was also told that when she passed away, she was on her deathbed for years, and she couldn't pass away because the dark spirits wouldn't release her soul until she will pass on that gift or that curse to someone else and to the family, and they will have to accept it. Until this day, we are wondering who's that person who accepted that gift in the family. But we are not staying in touch with them anymore. My father's side of the family, we don't stay in touch with them. But it's still a very strong fear and a very strong reality in our family. So we're trying to keep our guard up to not interact as much with that side of the family.
That's really fascinating. Now, she broke your parents up when you were only a year old. Did she continue to torment your mother and you, or if you had any siblings after that?
We moved out of that village. We moved on the other side of the country, so we did not keep in touch with them. The only memory I have of her is when I was about 5 years old. We went to visit my aunt in that village, and I stopped by to say hello to her. and she asked me to come in the house, and she will do a spell for protection for me. And she sat me on the chair, and I was just a child. I had no idea what would happen. And she brought a bowl that was like a pan, like a metal pan, and she put it on top of my head, and she started to whisper this very dark spells that were horrifying, the things she was saying. And she started to drop things into that bowl, and it sounded like metals and liquids. And she was telling things about animals and using their blood to instill fear and instill darkness. And I was terrified. As a child, I remember telling myself, just don't listen to this. Just don't accept whatever she's saying, because this is not good. Even as a child, although I wouldn't understand what she was doing, I knew this was wrong, and it terrified me. And then my sister walked in, and she realized what happened, and she grabbed my hand, and we left, and we never came back to that village, and we didn't stay in touch with that side of the family. So I do not know to what extent she continued her witchcraft affairs, but I was told and informed that she continued to do that all her life.
Did you ever, or did anybody ever talk about how she got involved with it? Was it something that was passed down through the family, or was it, since it said, like you were saying, that the demonic spirits or whatever they were wouldn't let her soul go until she passed it on to someone else in the family? So did you hear?
It sounds like it's been passed down for a long time.
Yeah, generations.
Yeah.
But it could possibly be that. I do not know. And I tried to find my own understanding and answers. Why would grandmother accept such an agreement? And I had to find the compassion in my heart to understand that she grew up into very hard times. She faced the war. She faced the famine. And those are very hard times. So for her to find a way to cope with what was going on, she had to turn to darkness to find a place of help. And that's the only way I could find my compassion for her and forgive what she has done upon our family. But why did she choose that and where it came from, I do not have an understanding of that. And I hope that whoever chose that gift will choose differently, because we always have a choice.
Yeah.
This might sound like it's coming out of left field, but it actually, your description of her and the things that she's doing is very similar to a lot of Native American, especially in the Southwest amongst the Navajo and even the Utes, when they talk about the evil witches, especially the Navajo, are very superstitious and fearful of evil witches, which they call skinwalkers. And the skinwalkers are everything that you just described of your grandmother. Everything done for an evil purpose. So it goes amongst different cultures too, that there are people that are like this.
Aren't skinwalkers, aren't they shapeshifters?
Yes. Yes, amongst the Native Americans, that's part of what they can do, but they also do a lot of the same type of spells, casting spells to make people sick, make people have bad luck, or to die. In fact, a skinwalker, to be initiated as a skinwalker, has to kill a relative in order to be initiated as a skinwalker. Now, again, that was taking a left turn away from your story. I just thought the similarities were striking.
Right, and it seemed like her intent and her purpose was to hurt. She didn't use those powers to do anything for goodness of others, but instead to harm them and to instill illness and to kill people, because the more sacrifices she would bring to those dark spirits, the more she was rewarded. And this is the information I got directly from my family, from my aunts, from I did not witness that, and I'm grateful for that. But I did grow up and live with the nightmares and this darkness and this fear in me that there was a certain energy and a certain presence around me that it followed me for years. And I had to find the strength in me and to pray and really call directly to God for help, because that presence was following me around all the way up until my second year of college. And I couldn't mistake it for anything else. It was very heavy. It was very dark, and it terrified me. And that's where I started to write from. I wrote from a place of fear. I wrote from a place of pain, and that's how Heir the Witch came about.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you had other experiences going beyond that, considering that, your parents broke up when you were 1, and then you had one other experience with her at 5, and yet there was so much trauma there. So I was curious if you had other, did you have any experiences, or is it just the feelings of the negativity and the heaviness?
Maybe the energy that was following you around was her energy.
Right. And I couldn't explain it exactly what it was, but I knew it was like anything else. It wasn't anything else that was familiar. That energy and that presence would visit me once in a while, and every time it was around, it was very ominous and present. I couldn't mistake it. I couldn't omit it. I couldn't ignore it. And it terrified me, and I knew it was there, and I had to address it directly and tell it to leave and to ask God to help me and protect me. And I had to battle that for years. And I understand when I was a kid, maybe as a child, I could have thought that, oh, it's just in my mind. Maybe it's just a child or a teenager that's scared. But when I'm an adult in college and I very presently feel that energy, then I knew that this was not a fairy tale folklore or some imagination. I knew it was real, and I had to have my own battle with it, and I had to overcome it.
But the pleasure and the pleasure she got from hurting others, I feel that she was enjoying the energy that was being given off by others. It was like feeding her, like an energy vampire.
Probably. I wouldn't know what exactly did for her personally. I had to find the compassion in myself and ultimately forgive her. She passed away, but then I took my own lessons from it, and I became stronger and overcome that fear. And then to be able to share that story from a perspective of it's okay to have an open conversation. This, energy is real, and there's a lot of different spirits around. So it's okay for us to just talk about it. And even if some people don't believe it or don't accept it, I just want to share it from an honest place and just to express my story.
And you went to live in a monastery, Einstein?
I did, yeah. So I had to actually go and live in a monastery for several weeks where there was priests praying over me, and there was, so to speak, an exorcism happening where I wasn't myself. The sounds and the screams that I was making, they weren't mine. And I knew very much that I had to be there and I had to stay there, but I couldn't stay there. I was running out of the monastery every time the prayers would start. I'd be outside, and my mom would beg me, just stay here for one more minute. And I knew for my own soul and my own peace, I knew I had to stay there, but I couldn't. It was a really long battle. And it took a long time for me to be able to continually to stay through the prayers and through the service where it was actually the exorcism was happening.
So you basically were suffering from extreme oppression, if not downright possession.
I've been very ashamed to say that for the longest time of my life, but yes, I was battling those spirits for them to leave me and to give me the peace that I deserve as a soul, as a human, and I ultimately overcome it. And I'm glad because by actually sharing the story and putting a light on my wound where it hurt so much, it actually helped me find my strength. And it's okay. We all go through things and battles really that nobody knows about. And as long as we find the strength to be vulnerable and talk about it, this is what I'm facing. This is what the demons I'm battling. And just hear me out. And it's okay if maybe you don't agree with it, but this is the story I've been feeling, and it's been very real for me. And by sharing that and putting it in, and so I was inspired to write the movie, to direct it from that place of authenticity. And by sharing that, and actually by the end of making the movie, it became a process of healing for me. It became a process of, I overcome this. This is actually okay. It happens, and I'm not the only one. I connected with other people who have been going through similar places, and that's okay. And the movie itself, it was such just a beautiful process. And the team was amazing, and everyone worked so hard. And it was one of the best experiences of my life, because I've worked on other projects as a director or as a producer, but writing and directing this movie that was so close to the bone, it was so just intimate for me. And showing up from a place of honesty, that was the ultimate process for me to overcome this fear.
Yeah, just looking at the trailer, honestly, people, when we advertise this, you must go and look at this trailer, because it's as good as any film I've seen. I'd love to see the whole film, but just that little snippet that we see is absolutely brilliant.
I will say, as a filmmaker myself, and I was very impressed based on the trailer. The production values seem very high in this movie, between prosthetics and maybe even CGI. I don't know if you how much of that was in the movie, but the scare effects, there's a lot in there that kind of reminds me of The Evil Dead, in terms of some of the graphicness of some of the characters. And the film itself, when did you shoot that? Was this last year?
No, it actually, it was such a long process. So we went to production of this movie in the beginning of COVID. And it was the most challenging times, because I didn't know if the world is ending or we're still going to be able to make a movie. But I pushed forward, and I've asked the team to do it very safely, and we will all follow the rules of safety. And we have a very strong team, and was in the summer of 2020. July and August is when we filmed. My team was made of 80% women, so everybody was on board. It's just let's make an amazing story. But then we encountered more challenges, because everyone's schedule was backed up because of COVID, and all of the schedules didn't run as we initially planned. It's been 2.5, now almost 3 years in the making of this movie. And I've learned so much during this movie. I'm studying directing at UCLA school, and I've learned so much more in making this movie than I've learned in the whole time at the film school, because the challenges that can arise on a set during production, afterwards, and post-production is things that you could never expect. And when they arise, you have to put your hat of a director or producer or anything just to help the movie go along, so you can bring it to the world and present it. Because as an independent filmmaker, there's so many challenges, and we had a limited budget. I couldn't have all the CGI that I wanted. I couldn't afford to get the biggest team that I wanted to have as a writer, as a creative. I had so much more that I wanted to bring in this movie, but there's always limitations. And that's when the true filmmaker and the true creativity in you spikes in, when you have limits and you still want to achieve a great picture and a great project.
Well, for people who aren't in the film industry or don't understand the filmmaking process, they think people like come together, actors show up, they shoot a scene, and then it moves on to the next. And there are so many challenges involved. I mean, and sometimes all of the challenges, even all of the drawbacks, work to your advantage. The best story out there is Steven Spielberg's Jaws, where the damn shark didn't work. and they had to come up with all of these creative ways. They had so many technical issues on that film that worked to the advantage, because originally they were going to show the shark from the beginning. Well, it turned out it was better to not show the shark, because then it built up the tension. And again, right. Jaws, I think, is one of the most perfect movies ever made. I mean, that's the end result of it. But the hell they went through behind the scenes, and movies are extremely challenging. You're constantly having to change things, rewrite things to mold to a budget, to mold to time frames, and what people also don't usually realize is how much movies are shot out of order. Sometimes you're shooting the ending first.
Right. And you have to be flexible, and you have to be open to those changes. Like, I had a specific scene that was written to be outside, and then in the middle of the scene, a major storm rolls in, and such a storm that all the balloons flew away, all the plates, that it was such an intense storm. And I said, just roll the cameras, just roll with it. I said this will work perfectly in the story, and it actually brought in the aspect of that nothing works for Anna in her world, and even her own birthday party got ruined by the storm, got ruined by the nature. And if you're open to those, so to speak, little accidents that you didn't plan ahead, but if you're open to it and you're flexible, it can actually work in your favor. Now, of course, there was times where it didn't work in our favor. If a location, doesn't pan out, or some actor can show up, and then you have to change your whole schedule and the team, and you have to think on your feet and to save the money and save the day, because every minute on set is very costly. That's when, as a creative, you have to be okay to let go of parts of the story that you wrote and thought, and you put your heart into it. But if it doesn't make sense and you can't do it, you have to be okay to break your heart. Your own heart will be broken in your project, but let go of that and do better. Do the best outcome you can do for your movie, and don't let it offend you. Don't let it hurt you to a point of not moving forward.
There are also aspects of filmmaking where you may have written a beautiful scene, you shot it, it's fantastic, you love it, you get into the editing room, and as the movie's coming together, you realize that scene doesn't work. Or you have to cut something for time, and there's that phrase that we all learned in film school is sometimes you have to kill your darlings. And
absolutely.
So I'm sure you had to deal with that.
Yes, and I had to be okay with that. I wrote the script from a place of making sure that every character has their backstory. Every character has a need and a reason why they're on the page, and why they're speaking, and why they're place and time. And it was a perfect script. It was a perfect story. And I had to cut maybe 35-40% off of it, if not more. And there was time where I knew how much time and work went into filming a scene, the setup, the makeup, the set design, the actual cost behind the scene that we filmed it. And it was absolutely just magical. And we had to cut it. And it broke my heart, but I had to do it, because at the end of the day, the only goal in mind should be the movie to be smooth and to flow and to be cool and be exciting. Because if it drags the movie at all, then it's not meant to be there. And I had to take very important pieces of the movie out that I would love to have kept them. But looking back, I'm glad that I was able to detach myself enough to to let that baby, creative baby, to cut its limbs off or whatever needs to be cut off just to make sure it's perfect for the world. When they see it and receive it, it's nothing extra and nothing is missing, but it's perfect.
That's why I have an issue most of the time with director cuts of movies. You release a movie into the theaters, there's your movie, and then down the road, they recut the movie and for either home video or whatever, and they release, or sometimes even back to the theaters, a longer director's cut. And they throw back in all of these scenes that were cut to begin with, because maybe people love the movie and they thought, okay, well, maybe they'll love even more of the movie, which, again, it still affects the pacing. How many versions of Blade Runner are there out there? You know, Ridley Scott did like about 5 or 6 different versions of that movie over the years. Same thing with Coppola with Apocalypse Now, with his Apocalypse redo. He did that 2 or 3 times. And usually when they do a director's cut, it doesn't work because you're dragging the movie down or the scenes are repetitive. George Lucas, when he went back in and he redid his original Star Wars special edition, trying to make fancy new effects, but he threw in a bunch of cut scenes that were completely pointless and repetitive of scenes that happened earlier. Just because he could. And by that point, he was so rich and powerful, nobody had the guts to say, hey, George, this is a stupid idea. Don't do it. So, yeah, I mean, there's only a couple of examples I can say where maybe the director's cut is superior. But in most cases, no, it's a bad idea. So, which is why movies get edited down. And, you know, a movie can be made or broken in the editing room if you don't have a sharp editor.
And that's when the script is actually being written in the editing room. That's when the story can take a completely different turn. And you have to be open to that when you try different outcomes. What if we turn this around? How would that be perceived? And obviously not with every story, but you have to be open. And the editing room, it's a living hell because there's so much tedious work and you have to be open to that and you have to be involved enough as a writer and director, but also detached enough that when somebody brings you feedback from the team, you're okay to take it like a champion. Like, yeah, that's okay. I agree. That's crap. Yeah, let's take it out. And also, it's great and it's excellent, but it still needs to be cut off because it doesn't make sense in the long run. And you have to be detached and let it go. That's the true ultimate test as a filmmaker.
And, you know, again, with the editing, you can change, as you mentioned, you're rewriting in the editing room and refurbishing the story. And sometimes the order of the scenes in the script it might work better by completely changing the order of the scenes or of certain scenes. Have something maybe that was supposed to happen in the middle of the movie happen in the beginning to set it up. It might flow better that way. So you're right. You have to be open to those types of drastic changes in the creative process because it's a creative process from beginning to end. I mean, getting into the sound mixing alone, having good sound in your movie and sound effects that don't stand out and sound like obvious, like voice replacement or cheap sound effects or that takes people right out of the movie.
Mm-hmm, yeah, it's everything. Every little piece is so important, but sound is such an important part of the movie. I think we spend so much time, months and months on the sound. I didn't know there's 7, 8 different levels of sound, and every single level has its own tone and different volume, and it was a tedious process. And we had to prepare the movie to be ready for the theater. So the theater's requirements were even more intense and more strict than actual DVD or streaming platforms. And we spent a lot of time into making sure that every aspect is well taken care of. Because as an indie filmmaker and as a first-time filmmaker and a horror filmmaker, we may be allowed to cut corners some places, but I didn't allow myself. I said, I'm going to put my everything in this movie. And my team worked along tirelessly every day. And we said, we're going to make a masterpiece from the start. We're going to do our best. We're going to have the best intent to create a great movie from the beginning. And I hope that we achieve that. So
how did you get involved in filmmaking to begin with? What drew you to it?
It's always been my long time just passion for film. But it's always been kind of one of those goals that, it's such a beautiful art. It's such a high standard of living. And only when I was in a moment of despair, and I had a very challenging journey about 10 years ago, and I stopped and asked myself, what does Victoria want? What is my heart desire? And the answer was firm, direct, and simple: film. That's what I want to do. And I started to take some classes. It was Meisner classes in acting. I started to act in short films and school projects. And then I asked anybody around, you need help on set, I'll be there. It does not matter what department, I will be there to help you, because any day on set is better than anywhere else. And it's been ever since. I would get involved in all kinds of projects, local, and I'll travel just to be on film. And I have done about a dozen short films myself, and then I worked on other people's projects. And then I said, I need to make my own feature film. And at the beginning, I was going to make a thriller, but due to budgetary restraints, I said, no, I have to do a story that it doesn't require millions, that I can make it under $1 million. And I went to, again, what hurts the most. And I went to horror, and I went to personal story. And I was just inspired by it. Of course, the movie itself has a lot of twists and a lot of creative story that it's nothing to do with the reality. I mean, there is a lot of Easter eggs that actually resemble reality in certain ways. But mostly it's been a creative process where I wrote a story and I let the muse visit me, and I honed that ideas, and I wrote at it for months until I was happy with it. I presented to my team. They're all excited and happy, so let's make a movie. And it's been a journey for 3 years in the making, and now it's finally here.
Now, with Pasha Entertainment, Quiver Distribution, so Pasha Entertainment, is that your production company, or you just work with Pat Moore? Did you both found it together, or how's that?
So Pasha is actually my mother's nickname. My mother's name is Paraskovia. She passed away 4 years ago, but she grew up in hard times, and she never had the chance to follow her passion or her hobbies, or to do something that she wanted to do in life. She sacrificed herself for her children. And when I decided that I'm going to pursue this dream and goal of mine to make films and movies, I said, I'm going to make my mom proud, and I want to make sure that she knows that as a woman, I can pursue my goals. And I put the name of my production company, Pasha Entertainment. It's her nickname. And she was very happy to see it and to see my passion for it.
Fantastic. Now, the movie is coming out on streaming August the 4th?
Yes. So on August the 4th, it will be on all streaming platforms. It will be on iTunes, on Amazon, on all the streaming platforms. There's a long list, but they will be available for rent or buy. And I hope that people would love to see it, and I want to hear their feedback and what they have to say about it. It's been a long project and a long process, and I'd love to hear people's thoughts about it.
Have you had any opportunities to show this theatrically, even limited?
Yes, we actually have a red carpet premiere on August 2nd, and it's going to be a local theater. We have 2 showings, and it's almost sold out, so everybody's buying the tickets. We'll have the media there, and we'll have everybody's been excited. It's been waiting for this movie for so long. So we'll have a fun night. We'll all dress up. I can't wait to get a long dress, a gown, and show up there and see all my friends and all the people who were involved and the team, so we can take pictures and then go see it on the big screen.
That would be fantastic. It's
it's
satisfying seeing a film that you worked on the big screen. Most of the films I worked on many years ago were straight to home video, terrible movies. I was just a hired hand, but a friend of mine, he made his own independent film. He wrote it, directed it. We shot it out in Oklahoma for 6 weeks, and when it was all done, he rented a theater so that we could all watch it on the big screen, and it came out pretty good. Unfortunately, he got screwed on by the distributor, and nobody ever saw the movie. So, although it is available on Amazon now too, but
it's important to make sure that you research. There is so much. I read so many heartbreaking stories where filmmakers would invest their time and money in a movie, have it completed and delivered, and sign a bad deal with a bad distributor. And that's an investment. That's basically, you grow a business, you invested hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars, and you handed a check to someone, and you never seen a penny again. So it is the filmmaker's responsibility to make sure they do the research, because the show business industry, it's a business. The word show, it's shorter. The business, it's longer. So it's your duty as a filmmaker, as a director. Yes, we love to be creative and make movies and just be in our creative space, but you have to do your due diligence and make the research to be sure that when you hand that movie to someone, that distributor will take care of it and will put it in the world for everyone to see, because this is a very important decision. One of the most important decisions you'll make in your movie process. And I'm very, very happy with my distributor and our process so far. So I'm excited.
Fantastic. Now, this might be jumping the gun a little bit, but with the movie coming out in less than a month, about 3 weeks, actually the day it comes out is the day Irene picks me up at the airport.
Oh, we can watch it together.
No, we could stream it and we'll watch it together.
Yeah, that's right.
We'll watch it over in England. There we go. We'll pull it up on Amazon. Do you have any ideas or plans for your next project?
Yes, I'm very excited because the next project is called 5. It's a psychological thriller, and it's something that I've been working on it. The script is completed, and we've already shot the concept trailer, and it looks phenomenal. It's very exciting, and it has twists and turns. Think something along the line of Fight Club and Gone Girl and Basic Instinct.
Ooh, good combination going there.
So it's a really cool story. It's fascinating, a lot of twists and turns, and it keeps you at the edge of your seat the whole time. And I cannot wait to start working and going in production into that project. So it's called 5, and I just can't wait to start filming soon. It's been this excitement in my heart just to keep going.
Because that's the thing. Once you get this premiere over with, and then the distributor takes it from there, it's like, okay, now it's time. Let's get to work on this next project and keep going and keep busy. Well, I'm really happy for you It sounds like you've got a great career starting off with this film, and I can't wait to see the film itself. Plus, the background and the story is really, really fascinating. I mean, because Irene and I come from, I mentioned I have a film background, but Irene and I also come from what would you call our background, Irene? I hate using the P word anymore, but
I don't know. I've got several backgrounds, haven't I?
let's just say that we come from I hate using the paranormal word, but we both have worked.
Yeah. We're both interested in the paranormal. Worked in the paranormal.
Yeah, but we've also we got some film ideas too. So I mean, Irene's a published author, and we're trying to turn one of her books actually into a television series. I wrote a pilot script for it. So we got some other ideas too. So it's all taking that creative process and trying to.
That's not really paranormal, that one, though, is it? Well, it is, but it isn't.
Yeah, it's a different genre, but we do have the more of the paranormal horror ones involving The Ring.
The Ring, yeah.
And other things too. So yeah. We've got our hands in a bunch of different pies as well. So totally understand.
It's important. It's very important to stay creative. I think it's our duty and our responsibility as humans to create and tell stories. And don't feel ashamed when the muse visits you. Be responsible and be respectful for that idea. Put it down. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't, someone else will. And it's our duty to be creative. And I always encourage people, please write. Please just take a leap of faith. It doesn't have to be a masterpiece, but who knows, it might. But your duty is to show up for you and for your responsibility and your desire to create and tell stories to the world.
Could not agree more. Being creative is extremely important.
I'm the creative one.
I have a creative bone in my body, I've got a little bit. I've helped you with some stuff, so I've had a few of my own things. So there. See what I told you earlier? Right. This is what we deal with here. Victoria, want to thank you so much for coming on the show, and we're really looking forward to seeing the movie in a few weeks.
We're going to be two of the first people to see this.
Yep.
On that day, I tell you, we are. I'm going to get the popcorn. I'm going to get everything. Ice creams, whatever you want, Mark.
Popcorn. You need popcorn. Yep.
And then we're going to stick it everywhere.
So the film is Heir of the Witch, and it was streaming everywhere on August the 4th, which is Friday, and on all the streaming services. So Victoria, again, congratulations. And thank you for coming on. We wish you all the success for this film.
Yeah, I hope it does really well, Victoria.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate having me on your show, and thank you for offering your platform for indie filmmakers, because it's really hard sometimes to keep on going into this challenging times. But I appreciate the opportunity to be able to be here, to have the movie completed and speak with you about it, and for the world to see it finally. So please let me know what your thoughts are, and get in touch with me. I'm on Instagram, Heir of the Witch, on Facebook, it's Heir of the Witch, or on our website, heirofthewitch.com.
Fantastic.
Okay, lovely.
We will check that out. Okay, well, Victoria, thank you again. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in to another edition of the Paranormal UK radio show, the flagship show here on the Paranormal UK radio network. Irene, where can people find us?
Everywhere, people. Just about everywhere.
All right, everyone, you have a great evening, and we will talk with you all again soon. Be good humans, and have a good one. See you later. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Thank you. Bye.